he usually sometimes drinks. Before Shaban, he started practicing. He said, no, from now on, he somehow heard this hadith that if you drink and then the 40 days, you would not be able to, your prayer is not accepted. He follows that. And he said, no, I'm not drinking.
So welcome to our channel, to our podcast, Hey Imam. So today we are doing this podcast in English because we have a very esteemed and for me, very important guest, Bilal, Hafiz Bilal. So before we begin, just let me introduce what we are going to do today. We are going to talk about Ramadan rituals, about the understanding of Ramadan in the European context here in Austria, but also in Muslim countries, not only in Turkey, in Turkey or in Arabia, but also in Asia. And Bilal is an expert for
South Asia,
Pakistan, for this subject. So therefore we are going to talk about it because, daily rituals are a form of religiosity, a religious performance. And therefore we are going to talk about this religious performance and how important the religious performance are for the Muslim identity and the daily life. So Bilal, welcome.
Thank you so much.
The first question, who are you and what are you doing at the University of Vienna?
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's really a pleasure and honor to be here, and I'm really pleased to be here. My name is Muhammad Bilal and I am from Pakistan. Hafiz is attached to my name because I memorized the Quran, so that's why it's like Hafiz Bilal. And I'm doing at the University of Vienna, I'm completing my PhD, hopefully very soon. And my thesis is about madrasa education in Pakistan. As it's a quite famous subject for especially in the Western context. So as I'm a graduate of madrasa education, so it's kind of I'm writing my own story, plus also what happens in the madrasa, how the identity is constructed, how the student choose their future, what they want to do in their life, and how the pious subject formation happens in madrasa. So that's my thesis, but I'm here for you today talking about Ramadan.
Hey, welcome again. It's a great pleasure to have you here. So then let's talk about, your childhood, about your time in Pakistan. How was it as a child, Ramadan?
So as I told you that I was a graduate of madrasa, so I went to madrasa then when I was around like 8, 9. So, and usually Ramadan and before Shaban, Ramadan are actually holidays from madrasa. So this was my holiday period of the whole year. So, and I grew up in a small village. So I used to be home during those time. And what I remember from it, so because I'm Hafiz, so one thing was that in Shaban, I started to, repeat Quran and started to make it good or make it more memorable because I have to lead the Taraweeh prayer. So this was the first thing that I used to do. Plus the second thing I still remember is this idea or ritual of moon sighting, because so we would do the Maghrib prayer and then everybody from the mosque would go together to the tallest building of the village and then look for the moon. Even though we had like state responsible authorities who would announce it later, but this was a collective effort. Everybody would come and then we go to look for the moon. And sometimes somebody would see it and then he would invite everybody to look where it is. And obviously then we have these small prayers, du'as, if you sight the moon and stuff. So this was something really interesting, this ritual of moon sighting going. This was usually in the villages. It rarely happens in bigger cities. But for me, growing up in a village, this was something really associated with Ramadan. And what also, actually before Ramadan, another thing was that we used to, especially on the 29th of Shaban, we used to pray Isha very late because state authorities would announce the beginning of Ramadan sometime very late because they would collect Shahada from different places and then they announce it. So everybody after the Isha prayer, everybody would sit down, wait for at least half an hour. And I still remember that it happened once that it took the authorities to announce almost 2 hours. And then everybody already went home. They came back and we started Taraweeh. And then we finished the Taraweeh prayer and then we started Ramadan the next day.
So it was like an event, then,
yeah, absolutely.
When I imagine then you're going, to tallest building and just, waiting for the moon,
Yeah, exactly.
And do you think that we have this tradition today also? Or do you think that this is, like soccer, I do like soccer, but 20 years ago, soccer was, very intense and it was fun. And today it's more merchandise, it's more, about money. It's, do you think that Ramadan Ramadan is today also like this, or would you say that no, this is in some places, in Asia, in Pakistan, Indonesia, etc., in Malaysia, we have this, this understanding of Ramadan, that Ramadan is event, something you are performing, not only, saum, not eat, not drink, but, it's an event to Shaban. You mentioned Rajab, Shaban, the 2 months before Ramadan, preparation, you're thinking about in 2 months or after 1 month, after 1 week, we have Ramadan. Do you think that there's a gap in the understanding of what Ramadan was and what Ramadan is today?
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree. So I would divide it into more urban and also more on the digital age, digital presence. There, Ramadan is more, I would say, materialized, or it's more into capitalizing more financial and more performance based, where you see everybody is. So, for example, this is what happening in Pakistan, at least for past 20 years, that we have these, we call them Ramaḍān transmission. So on the TV, it will be start from early at 4 a.m. Or even before that, and goes on to till 6 till the when you finish your Suḥūr, or we call it Sahri, and then in the evening it will start from 3 p.m. and goes on till late, and it is called as a Ramadan transmission. But what's happening inside, it's not actually Ramadan. It's happening. Everything is the game shows are happening there. And if you look at if we can do it, like I will share some pictures. You can put it along this. The set of the television is like a zoo. You have animals there. You have spring there. It's so much is happening there. And then the other thing I think that's not just specific to Pakistan, but is that just before the iftar, they would invite scholars of Islamic scholars. But usually you would invite scholar to discuss some expertise on Quran or some hadith or some. But these scholars are invited to talk about really sensitive topics, really sectarian topics, to talk about some issues that would bring two of the scholars into debate on each other and would make so just to get engagement, as we see in the normal TV channels. So this is one thing that I would say it happens now on TikTok, on Instagram. People will say bring up huge marriage halls, book and make iftar and then show the videos of it and everything. But that has also happened. But I would still say the quite majority of the people who really practice it in a sense of practicing. And I don't mean it to be really just the, you would say, pious people or religious people, ordinary people. For example, I know one of my friend actually, he usually sometimes drinks. But before Shaban, he start practicing. He said, no, from now on. And I think he told me once that he somehow heard this hadith that if you drink and then the 40 days, you would not be able to, your prayer is not accepted. And he follows that. And he said, no, I'm not drinking. And that's so ordinary people. So for example, I have seen people who work on daily wages in construction and really hard job, which is especially in Pakistan because the last 30 years of Ramadan was in summer, really, really hot summer. So I see people who would work more hours before Ramadan so they get some break from the work and perform Ramadan and have the fast. So you have both expressions there, but I think the performance or the show is a smaller population, and in a lot of people you would see a mosque will become fuller. There were a lot of people on the prayer, a lot of people reciting Quran. In most of the mosque, people would the scholars would translate Quran. So a lot of people, you feel the sense of this piousness or this respecting the Ramadan. You can see it like you can feel it like in the air.
Okay, very interesting. This spiritual aspect, it's a month of feeling the spiritual or the inner relationship to God, or especially to Allah, with not only saum but also with reciting the Quran. And you said you are Hafiz, right? What do you think about reciting the Quran only in the Arabic, or do you mean that reciting and trying to understand, because Ramadan is the month of the Quran? What do you think about this? And after that I want to go deeper to how the Ramadan is performed by social media imams.
Yeah.
But first of all, this idea of the Quran and your own expression questions or ideas about this?
Yeah, no, as obviously, if we look at the Hadith literature, it's all filled that Ramadan, the Quran was gave to Prophet during the Ramadan, and Jibreel would come and recite Quran every Ramadan, and they would finish Quran with the Prophet every Ramadan, and all the other Hadiths which claim that if you recite one word of the Quran, you get 10 blessings, or sometime even 70. So in Ramadan, you get a lot of ordinary people who just know how to recite Quran. They would really look for this month to really recite Quran. And in Pakistan, it's a tradition that a lot of people who just know reading Quran from just by looking at the script, they would finish Quran, or we call it Khatam-e-Quran, for like sometime 10, sometime 15 times. Because especially, for example, our mothers and sisters, obviously they have to do a lot of work with food preparation and everything, but also they would dedicate a huge amount of their time of day to reading Quran and reciting Quran during the whole day. And then the second aspect is that in Ramadan, a lot of people in a lot of mosques, they start these small gatherings. So, for example, after Fajr, the scholar or the Imam of he would sit down and explain one or two ayah, and then people would recite it. There are different ways of different mosques do it different. So, for example, there are some mosques they would do it like the Imam would recite the Quran first, just two ayah, small two ayah, and then ask the people to recite along with him, and also the translation. They would recite the translation again together, and then the scholar would explain it. So this also happens. And then with the Taraweeh, so usually you have mostly people who are leading the Taraweeh prayer are Hafiz and also the scholar as well. So what they would do either before the Taraweeh or after the Taraweeh, they would explain what they are going to recite in the Taraweeh. So you have both, like there's people who are really reciting the Quran and going trying to learn. For example, my father is now almost 60 years old, and he now again started going to a Qari and asking him to really correct his pronunciation. So you see a lot of people who come to mosque, people spend a lot of time mosque just studying Quran, asking Hafaz to come and correct their Quran. And plus, but also the other thing that is famous in Pakistan is to listen to Quran. So in some of the houses you would see, or even in some of the shops, they would always be playing Quran the whole day. Sometime with translation, sometime without translation, but the whole time they would be praying Quran. And for me as a Hufaz, it was like it's a blessing as well, because obviously we get the chance. It's a proud moment to get the chance to lead the prayer of a lot of people and Khatm Quran to finish the whole Quran in Taraweeh. But also it was hard because it was really, really hot summer. It's like in Pakistan, it was like 43, 45. And sometimes we didn't even have electricity as well. So,
this is very hard,
Yeah, so it was quite hard. But, like then you feel more, then you get more reflection on it as well. And then you get more satisfaction from it as well. So that the relation of Quran and recitation and understanding in Pakistan.
So if you compare this tradition with, you have your third Ramadan here in Austria, or second?
Yeah, third.
Third. Are you able to compare it and to say?
No. It's very different. It's very different. I think, so what happens in Muslim majority country, Pakistan, Indonesia, or Turkey or any other country, is that at least from Pakistan, my experience, when the Ramadan starts, so it's not a normal month. So the whole work schedule, whole daily life is surrounded around the Ramadan, around the Saum, around the Suḥūr and Iftar. So it's not a normal life. If you're working, for example, 8-hour days, your work will be 6-hour a day. You start early and finish early, and then you get relaxation from the work. Also, you would celebrate together. For example, everybody would come around and do the iftar together. Or another thing that I remember was, especially during the Suḥūr, we call it Sehri. So because it's in Pakistan, a Muslim majority community is a communal event. It's not an individual event. So in the villages, some people would take the responsibility of waking up the whole village. So if you go to Pakistan in Ramadan, especially in the villages, I think if you're not fasting, you won't be able to sleep, because so they wake up around really early, so at least 2 hours before the closing time, and they would shout in the loudspeaker that wake up, it's a time to collect blessings. So and then they would recite Quran, they would sing naats and then all those things, and then again and again they would say, okay, wake up. So it's like, and a lot of people don't use alarm because they know this thing that it will come up. But this is the villages. But in the cities, a lot of people would take the responsibility of waking up by drummers. We have this traditional drum this big. We call it Ḍhol, and every time in the morning, every first every Sahri time or Suḥūr time, they would come and wake up. They would wake up, and then at the end of the Ramadan, they would come and collect some money for that as well.
So I know it's from Turkey.
The
same Ḍhol. We call it Ḍhol also.
Yeah.
So what about, you said that this is it's collective, it's not individual. So what about when I'm traveling to Pakistan now? It's a little bit provocative question, but I want to compare it with the Austrian and social media context, okay? So when I'm traveling now to Pakistan, and beside the fact that I'm obvious non-Pakistani, I'm just eating before iftar, in the evening, in the morning. What would the reaction of the Pakistanis? Would they say, okay, this is your decision? Or even if a Pakistani would do this, are they open, or they say, no, it's Ramadan? Because I want to give you an example.
Please.
I have just a walk with my daughters. So I saw a woman with, veiled woman, and she was smoking kills.
Yeah,
it's not good, but it's her decision.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
She was smoking, and then a guy came to her and said, sister, what are you doing? It's Ramadan. No, it's haram. You are not allowed to do this. And I said, it's not your business.
Yeah.
It's up to her. If she's doing this, happened 3 days ago in Vienna.
No, I would say the two things to this. One, if it's somebody who's visibly foreigner, there won't be a problem, because the hospitality tradition is quite strong. So they would ask the person to give him free food, and they would invite him that sit down and eat and everything. So they would not that would not be a problem. But if this becomes like a Muslim or a local person doing it, that has consequences from the law and from the communal side as well. So it would not be that somebody would just go and stop him or her. It would be more on like looking them as like, what are you doing? Like it's not a good thing to do. But from the law perspective, we have a law which is called in Urdu is called Iḥtirām-e-Ramaḍān Act, which means the respecting Ramadan Act. So in those situations, you don't have the restaurants are not open like during the daytime, at least from morning 6 to afternoon. They are not open. If somebody wants to eat, they would put a curtain in front of it, and inside because they know that there are travelers, musafir, there are people who are sick, so that is there. But it's you won't see it at least from 6 to 3 p.m. People opening shops and eating open fare, because it's in against the Iḥtirām-e-Ramaḍān Act. So people will look at you with a bit of shame as well. Yeah.
What do you say, or what could you say, or what could we say about this guy who's doing this? Iḥtirām-e-Ramaḍān, it's very in a Muslim country. These are the rules.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, we are respecting these rules. What about this guy? We have a lot of people like this, guys like this, and in social media we have a lot of. So the imams, they are saying, no, you are not allowed to do this if you're not doing Sawm fasting.
Yeah.
You are not a good Muslim, etc. Do you think that this is the right way of presenting Ramadan? Because if you told about your childhood, it was an event. It's very positive to me.
Yeah,
now
exactly.
I'm now a Muslim. Okay, I'm a Muslim. But even for a non-Muslim, it's very sympathetic and very very good, very positive.
Exactly.
But on the other side, we have a pressure. Do you think that this is the way to present Ramadan and to share Ramadan with non-Muslims? And the second question is, are we doing or respecting the Iḥtirām-e-Sawm of Christians, because it's the fasting time of Christians.
Exactly.
Are we respecting this? Even in Turkey, for example, we have a lot of Christian people there.
Yeah, exactly.
Are we respecting, or Alawi people, for example, for Muharram? Are we saying, today is Muharram, I'm a Sunni, but these 10 days, I'm not going to eat outside. So what do you think about these aspects?
So it's a very very interesting question, very important as well, because it comes on the judgment of the people, how you judge the individuals. I think because the personal freedom is very important, and especially in this day and age, and especially with Islam, because the good thing, or even at the same time bad thing with Islam, is that there is no one authority.
Yes.
So so it's like, even if somebody is saying that you are not a good Muslim, it doesn't matter at all. Like, who the hell are you to tell me that I'm a better better Muslim. I can I can choose for myself. So that's a good thing with Islam, or bad thing, you can say at the same time. But I think it's as you said, the more positive way of telling people, because da'wah is important. You give da'wah to people that, okay, this is an important month in Ramadan and important month in Islam, so you should respect it. But to judge someone, I think this is not the place of the person, and especially judging somebody individually. I think that's really wrong, because even just looking at from the religious perspective, you don't know what the person is. For example, if he's sick, for example, if somebody has a sugar, it's not visible, and that person cannot fast, or like some of the other, because you don't know, and that's why you are not in a position to really give a judgment, either moral or religious one. So I think that is not the case. And also what it does, I think that what a lot of social media and these guys does is that with this much strictness, they limit the freedom that even religion provides them. For example, a lot of sick people, they have to fast, and they cannot live without something to eat. But because of this much of a stricter interpretation, this much of a judgment, they somehow face the severe health consequences. So I think it's for me, I think you can generally say that, okay, Prophet said if somebody does not fast, he does this, and if somebody I understand. But to really put on, because especially the Ramadan, as I think in a lot of hadith, and also our elders said, the Ramadan is between you and God. I can go and drink in the kitchen and close it off. So who knows? Who knows? So the Ramadan is between the person and the God. So it's really, I think it makes no reason for somebody to really put these much strict presentations on somebody, or strict implementation of their understanding on the other people. So I think that is, and especially because I come from a Hanafi, even if you are traveling for like half an hour, 72 kilometers, you cannot fast. It's up to you if you want to fast or not. So that's why I don't think there's so much space in the religion that if you are trying to bring these very narrow-minded things, I think that's not good, at least even for dawah perspective, and even for your own community perspective as well. And the second thing that you asked me, it's really important to really, so we can talk about it from a secular perspective as well, how we treat each other on equal sense. But I would really go back, because if we are addressing the people who are religious and claiming to be religious, and because if you want to give dawah somebody, you have to respect their religion. It's impossible. If you're disrespecting me, I'm not going to listen to you at all. And Quran says that when even Moses and Harun were going, they would say, you have to use the softer tongue. So you have to use the softer tongue. So if you're disrespecting somebody in any way, you are reducing your opportunities to give them dawah. So obviously, then you have a secular perspective. You can talk about that as well, how everybody is equal in a state, and that's why you have to respect everybody's religion and everybody's their occasions. And I think if I would like to talk about Pakistani situation in Pakistan, the situation for minorities is not really good. We had a very, very terrible last decade from the 2010-2020, but I think from 2024 onwards, the situation is becoming better. We have some good politicians who are doing some things. For example, this time we had a huge Christmas tree right in the middle of the city. We had Christmas celebrations by state minister were participating in it, and then I heard one of our Christian community representatives saying that this time we got the voice. We felt that the state is, but obviously there's much work to do. And from the dawah perspective, I would say we most probably talking about the dawah bros on the social media.
Yeah, sure. So this is very important aspect. Sorry for interrupting you.
Please.
But you said dawah, but you use dawah in the right sense, because you said that dawah is not only to go around and say this is haram, this is halal, don't do this, do that, for example. It's living the Islam in the right way. Be a good person, with ethics, etc. This is dawah, right?
Exactly.
Dawah is not to say this is haram, don't do this, brother, don't do this, sister.
Exactly. Yeah. No, exactly. It's so, especially with Islam, this is impossible to talk about because Islam is so much So when you say Islam is not something like 10 written categories or commandments. Islam is different everywhere. So for example, what I do in Pakistan, and okay, leave Pakistan, even if we go before, something is halal in Hanafis, haram in Shāfiʿīs. Something is haram in Hanbalis and something halal in Shia community. So if you sit here, you don't know somebody and you have one interpretation and you say the other person, oh, this is wrong. It's impossible. For example, like in the Hanafis, you cannot eat from anything from the sea apart from the fish. And then you sit and accuse somebody, oh, you're eating with haram. Like, okay, I am from Shāfiʿī. It's not just about eating. It's about even leading the prayer. So in Hanafis, the leader of the Imam is responsible for the prayer of the whole congregation. In Shāfiʿī, it's not. So even if you are praying in a different way and the people behind you praying in a different way, it doesn't matter at all. So especially with Islam, this is so much difficult to really sit down and say, okay, what you're doing, it's haram. I think that's it's really if you want to talk about something which is you think haram, you have to really properly contextualize it. I am thinking this is haram because of this interpretation, and this is a school of thought. And there are some more in different interpretations, because obviously now we can famous names are Hanafi, Shāfiʿī, and Hanbalis, but there are multiple schools. Ibn Taymiyyah had his own school. The Ibn Hazm had his own school. You can name it. People had so many different interpretations, and I think we are going deeper into that. Then Sahaba were having a different interpretations among them. So, and even I say sometimes that Imam Shāfiʿī Rahimahullah had a different understanding from one Sahabi, and Abu Hanifa had a different understanding from Sahabi. So it doesn't mean that they okay, both are wrong. And I remember one of the event that happened in front of the Prophet. That Prophet sent a caravan for somewhere. I don't remember exactly, but and what happened is that the Prophet said that when you reach there, then pray the Asr prayer. But what happened that when they were going, they got late. So some of them prayed the Asr prayer on the way, and some of them went there and then prayed the Asr prayer. So now, when they came back and told the Prophet, they said, yeah, both are fine. You really looked at it. When you have this much of a huge corpus of tradition, it's very impossible to just go in one way and say, okay, this is haram and you cannot do it. I think that's it's really important to look at.
Great, thank you very much. But last thing.
Please.
If there's a possibility to establish here a new Ramadan tradition in Austria from Pakistan, which one you would choose and establish here?
No, I would really do the food. I would really bring back a lot of
beside
food.
the food, ritual,
No. I would really the thing that I really see in Pakistan, I think in other Muslim countries as well, that this is a time of charity and zakah, and I think it's really, really important to, especially a lot of vulnerable communities with so much inflation and everything going on. I think that would I bring back to really help the community that you're living with, you are surrounded by, and the community that you go along and every day you spend most of your lifetime. I think that is one thing that I would really. It's already there, but to make it at a more national level, or at least on the state level, that Muslim living here or even from abroad, they bring their money and spend it on the community to make their living better. I think that I would do. That would be my something.
Very good. So Bilal, thank you very much. It was a
so much.
Great pleasure and honor to have you here. So maybe we should meet one more time, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much.